Einstein, thank you for joining me on this beautiful set of The Little Mermaid and taking the time to share some updates about the school and some of the future plans and visions that you have going forward for the entire St. Edward's school community.
Yeah, thank you, Mara. I'm glad to be here, and I'm excited about the future, and can't wait to share what's happening.
So I know that when the board hired you, one of the things that we really valued was the research that you have done on educational pedagogy, and specifically as it related to your doctoral thesis. And I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about how some of that research and some of that data has already been implemented at the school.
Yeah, sure. So I've always had an intense desire to really study great organizations and question kind of, what makes them great. And so for me, the normal interest for me in the thesis was what makes schools great. And so the first and foremost thing in my research that I found out is that great schools rely on data, that they rely on data, to make programmatic improvements. They rely on data to improve student performance. And so that was one key that I'm really interested in. The other, of course, is great people, and it's hiring, which, we pay particular attention to and will as we go into the new year, but also retention is a big key in great schools, and it's hiring and keeping great teachers. And so those are two things. The third is really an interesting one that I think really permeates through any great organization, and it's creating a culture of constant improvement. That just because we're good today doesn't mean we can't get better. And we've got football fans out there, but everyone knows about Nick Saban and the success at Alabama, even though they lost the national championship. But because they're always at the top, they're always fighting, but every day they get a little better. And his motto is pay attention to the process. And so if you try to get 1% better every day, I think that's our goal going forward. And obviously St. Ed's, we're in a great place, a great school, but creating that culture of constant improvement is something that I believe very strongly.
So I think both of us are acutely aware of sort of the paradigm shift in enrollment and retention in both St. Edward's School and the independent school community in general. Some of this has to do with changing demographics here in Vero Beach, and even major shifts nationally and internationally. I just was wondering if you could elaborate on how you see this going into the future and what our plans might be as they relate to enrollment.
Yeah, great question. Of course, you are the one acutely aware of what's happening here at St. Edward's, and this question has come up a number of times. We currently are at 630 students at St. Edward's. When you look back to last year, we were at 557 students, so we've had significant growth. We currently have wait lists in 10 grades. These are all positive things, but I think the one thing I really want us to focus on is the fact that we're not looking to grow just for the sake of growth. We don't want to lose what's special at St. Ed's, and that is the student-teacher relationship, the fact that every child here at St. Edward's is known by an adult, and that we know the children. And so that's the special thing about St. Ed's is our community. And so we don't have any intention of continuing to grow into a larger school. So that's first and foremost. I think nationally what we're seeing is that the pandemic in some places has increased enrollment for some independent schools, and for some it's actually hurt. And so some of the schools that were on the brink prior to the pandemic are really struggling right now. We've seen some closures, school closures, and such. But here at St. Edward's, people want to come to Vero Beach, and we just happen to benefit from that. But again, I think the big piece in all of this I want to stress is that we're not interested in just growing for growth's sake. And you do a great job of this, admitting mission appropriate students, great families, and making sure that we stay true to our mission, which is the whole child, educating the whole child and turning out future leaders for the world.
I absolutely agree with you. I think we've done great work in this area in restructuring and getting ourselves aligned with best practices in the independent school world. And so I was just wondering if you could share some of those advancements that we've made in this area and enhancements to our program.
Yeah, so obviously I've come from a different background. I've been at a couple of other independent schools around the country, and the first thing I noticed was a lot of independent schools today have shifted their focus where we called it the admissions office. They're now talking about enrollment management, which really focuses on retention as well. And so we did make the change in not only the name, but in the way we conduct admissions and enrollment management. Partly because of the increase in the number of applications, and you're obviously aware of that. I mean, you've got well over 120 applications for next year already. Last year, we saw record numbers of applications. And so being able to centralize the admissions process through your office, using Maureen as well, McMullen, to help with retention, focusing on the families that we have here. If we get insight that maybe a family's thinking about leaving, obviously reaching out to them and being proactive as to why. But I think the centralized piece is critical, and it's about being efficient. The families that are interested in coming to St. Edward's expect us to give them an answer fairly quickly. Some aren't even here yet, and so they're making the decision whether or not to move to Vero Beach based on whether or not their child or children can get into St. Edward's. And so that was a major reason for us.
So as most of our community is probably aware by now, we have actually embarked on a new strategic plan that we're all very excited about. And I know one of your goals is to really have the entire St. Edward's School community involved, all the different groups. Could you elaborate a little bit on how that involvement is going to occur and sort of what the goal of a strategic plan is?
Yeah, great question. So we are excited about the future, the strategic plan. I hope everybody has had an opportunity to see the survey. So that's a big part of all of this, is to gather the data from our constituents, and which will help the process moving forward. It'll help guide us in areas that we're looking at. Ian Simmons is the consultant we hired of Simmons & Associates, and Ian is renowned in the field of independent school education and strategic planning. He's worked with well over 1,000 independent schools around the country. He's considered the best in the business, so we're thrilled to have him work with us on this. We've got over 50 people who are involved in this process. We have a steering committee of about 15. And then we'll have 4 to 5 working committees. There will be a lot of people involved in the process. Some of what we're doing today is actually stuff that will probably find its way into the strategic plan. And I mentioned earlier about the commitment to the culture of constant improvement. And right now, for instance, in the lower school, we talk about programmatic improvements, and we're really working hard on Writer's Workshop, which is being piloted right now in grades 2 and 3. It's a fantastic program. It's one we used at my last school. Been around since 1981, tons of research to support it. And so that's just one key component. We looked at the timeline for the strategic plan to hopefully finish by sometime this summer. And then that steering committee again will meet to put the final touches on the plan, which will be adopted by the Board of Trustees at some point in the fall. And then I'm really excited, once that finished product is here, to be able to introduce it to the school community, probably here in the Wax Labs, being able to bring people in and go through each point in that plan for the future.
So I know the strategic plan, and really all decision making that we do, is really focused on children, and they're sort of at the forefront of all the decisions that we make. Can you talk to me, have we made any improvements even this year prior to the strategic plan that you think will directly start benefiting all of our children soon?
Yeah, one of the areas I'm really excited about is the Academic Learning Lab. And thankfully, through a generous gift, we are able to expand the services we offer in the ALL. And I think we would all agree, we all went to school as kids at various points in our lives, and in our students' lives, they need support. And so being able to expand the services, we're hiring additional teachers who will work in the ALL. Cindy Roth, of course, was all by herself in the lower school and did a tremendous job over there. We're able to now expand the umbrella of the ALL to include the lower school, the middle and upper. We will hire additional staff for Cindy, obviously under the guidance and the leadership of Camille Green, who has just done a fantastic job, and Jill and Carolyn, who are just absolute rock stars. And I think the idea is St. Edward's School, when you come here as a student, you'll have everything you need under one roof as a family. And again, some of the success stories that have come out of the ALL have been just phenomenal. And I can't say enough. I think it's one of those areas that really separates us from good independent schools to great independent schools. And can't say enough. And again, I can't stress enough this, but you know, we have this fantastic gift, but we still need more. And so if anyone out there is interested in continuing to support the school, I would ask that you consider a gift to the ALL. And I think it is money well spent.
So another change that we have coming is actually in the middle school, and I think we're all simultaneously happy for Kira Murphy and sad at the same time, given all the contributions she's made to our school. So I didn't know if you wanted to talk maybe about some of those contributions and where we are in the process of filling that position.
Yeah, I can't say enough about Kira and her leadership in the middle school. I think this is her 11th year. Obviously, Barbara Moeller in the lower school last year after a long tenure of leadership, and so we are sad that Kira is leaving us. Wish her and Gary and the rest of the family the very best in the future. I will say that one exciting aspect in all of this is the attention that the position has garnered nationally, even internationally. We had international applicants as well. And so we've met, actually last Friday, interviewed 5 semifinalists for the position, all extremely talented educators. And we've narrowed the list down to 4, possibly 5 finalists, which will be on campus over the next few weeks. The hope is that we can have this position filled and have a quality leader in that position before the end of February. The other thing that I want to stress is that we will have parents involved in that process for finalists. We've obviously the middle school faculty, we're going to have students, the leadership team, and then would like to have this individual visit campus in person sometime in the spring, because I think it's critical to start developing those relationships with middle school faculty and the rest of us here at St. Edward's.
So I know we also have some upgrades to our facility that we're very excited about, and I didn't know if you want to explain some of those and share that with our community.
Yeah, so again, this will probably come in the form of a strategic plan, but we've started it early. Obviously, the pool is on everyone's mind. We've done a fantastic job fundraising and want to thank everyone that has given to that project. Right now, the pool, I think we all understand where we're at with the economy. Prices of everything has increased. I mean, I went to Publix the other day. The shelves are empty and everything has increased in cost. We've seen the same thing with respect to the pool. The cost of steel, all of the materials that go in, the PVC, all of that stuff has increased. And so we're kind of in a part where we thought we had raised enough money. At this point, what I would ask is anyone that has given to the pool, if they have it in their heart and they desire to give more, would love that to happen. If you haven't given to the pool, would love for that to happen. If you will consider a gift to that project. It's a big project. We hope to have it completed in 2022. We're in the phase right now where we're selecting a contractor, And so hopefully that'll happen in the next month or so. And again, timing, you get in a queue for construction, and everything is kind of slowed down. So, but anyway, it's going to be a great project. I call it phase one of the campus master plan, the capital campaign. It really is. It's central in location to our campus. The other facility upgrade that I want to talk about is our weight room. And so, I think we go back to the culture of constant improvement. If you were to walk through the weight room today and you looked and asked the question, does this represent excellence? I think you would say, no, we have some work to do. It's dated. And so we're excited about that project. We've got a design in place for that. Again, would emphasize any family that's interested in giving to that project, we would really appreciate it. We're close to closing that one out and placing an order for all the new equipment, new flooring, new weights, all of that, and hope to have that completed during the summer. So the other area that, as far as facility upgrades, are classrooms. We have a capital replacement plan, and through the leadership of Jason Fikes and John Hearn, and those before the Buildings and Grounds Committee, sits down and annually looks at projects for the summer. We spend upwards of $1 million every summer doing facility upgrades, and obviously our classrooms are an important part of that. And so those projects do take place over the summer. The other are communal areas where kids gather. One area that you may have noticed on campus that has recently been updated is the area between the lower school and the WAC. And so William and his crew did a fantastic job taking what was really an eyesore and turning it into a beautiful place where kids can have lunch outside now. Parents can sit with their kids at lunch. We have classes that visit out there for various reasons, and umbrellas and picnic tables and such. So those are a couple of key areas that we do focus on throughout the year.
So we've been talking a lot about the enhancements that we can visually see. But there are some enhancements that we can't see, like the endowment, and I know we've grown in that area. And I was just wondering if you could elaborate a little bit on what our endowment is and what we need it for.
Sure. So some folks don't know that St. Edward's School is a 501c3 nonprofit. Nonprofit organizations rely on endowments, not only for the current operations of the school, but for the future. And so the way I look at endowments is that it's really there for our kids' kids. We rely heavily on our endowment in our operating budget annually to support faculty professional development. Our biggest asset is our teachers. And so being able to support them financially with professional development is a huge part of that endowment. The other piece, getting back to our people, is the endowment is used to offset some costs to our faculty and staff for benefits. So healthcare, all of those things that go into a benefits package. It is also used, I know we've changed the name, but variable tuition. We have families that rely on financial support from the school, and that comes from our endowment as well. So it is a critical component of what we do here at St. Ed's. And I think the other thing people need to realize is we've not always had this endowment. And even when I got here in 2020, the endowment was $14 million. And through market appreciation and some additional gifts, we've gotten that the endowment's now over $20 million. But it's not where we need to be. Continued growth in that is going to be critical, and that will probably come, that'll find its way into the strategic plan as well. But again, it's, the folks that came before us were huge with respect to the endowment, and we can't lose sight of that.
So I know we've covered a lot of areas here, but I didn't know if there was anything else you really wanted to be able to share with the St. Edward's community.
Yeah, so, we talk about the future, the strategic plan, which is a part of our future, but I never want to lose sight of our past and the giants that came before us who put us in this position that we're at today, who played a critical role in where we're at today. I never want to lose sight of that. We owe it to them. We owe it to the giants of the past to continue to pursue excellence, to continue to get better on a daily basis. And when I think about St. Edward's, I think that in and of itself is in our DNA, that we are a school that continuously strives to improve everything we do on a daily basis. And so to prior administrations, to prior board members, grandparents, parents, all of those folks that put us in this position today, we can never lose sight of that. And the other thing I want to mention is we're never going to lose sight of what makes St. Edward's special and our commitment, our mission, which is to support the whole child. You know, it's not just about academics, it's the arts, it's athletics. And it's also a school that we graduate leaders. I mean, our kids are going off to college, but beyond college, they're leaders in their community. And I think that in and of itself is critically important in what we continue to do, to turn out graduates who have strong moral compasses, who believe in the power of human kindness and generosity of spirit. And if we can do that, then I think we've accomplished our mission.
Thank you so much for spending the time with us and sharing all this information. And I just want to remind everyone that The Little Mermaid is opening on the 11th of February. And we hope that many of you will join us and experience this fantastic show that's been put together. Thank you again.
Thank you.